Podcast City Network.
What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another wonderful episode of the Nest Podcast. I'm your boy, Brandon, joined as always by my co-host, Zach. Zach, what's up, dude?
Hey, how's it going? Just wrapping up a little Memorial Day weekend here.
That's right.
I know you took your trip to Tennessee.
Yeah, we took a trip up to Tennessee from Florida. My day actually kicked off this morning around 7:30 whenever we got the kids up and all that stuff, got them dressed and cereal thrown at them so that we could hop in the car and make it back in time for the show tonight. We had a pretty decent trip, a quick trip up to Tennessee. The weather sucked. It was freezing in Tennessee. We went from triple digits in Florida last week to it got down to, I think, 47 in Tennessee one night. So it pretty big difference for us.
Yeah.
Didn't stop the kids from trying to get out into the pool and do all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it is what it is. But happy to be back from Tennessee and here to do another episode. Veronica was like, "Why are we trying so hard to get back?" And I was like, "Look, we've been going at this thing for almost 3 years and haven't missed a single episode. So we're not going to start now."
Right.
But how was your weekend? How was your Memorial Day and all that?
It was good. Saturday, we went to a friend's wedding here in town and had some fun. For the most part, the rest of the weekend has just been kind of chill. So and not bad, though. I will never scoff at having 3 days off. So if you want to, we can just jump right into it.
Sure. Yeah, Zach's kind of going to take the lead tonight because like you know, I've been busy all weekend and he had time to prepare for this one and I didn't. So he's going to take the reins and kind of run with it. So yeah, Zach, take it away.
For sure. So the Cardinals just wrapped up a series with the Diamondbacks, won 3 out of 4 games. And then before that, we had a series with the White Sox. And of course, Tony La Russa made all of his woes with his whole thoughts on baseball that we covered last week. And another thing happened in that series. Relief pitcher Giovanni Gallegos, who's been very good all year, comes into the game. I can't remember the inning. It was late. And starts doing his warm-up pitches. And umpire Joe West, who during that series made history as, I can't remember the details, but some sort of number of games behind home plate.
The most ever or whatever. Yeah. He's been around forever, so it was bound to happen eventually. Yeah.
Right. They said he's been an umpire since like the 70s or something. So whatever. Anyway, Joe West notices a dark spot on Gallegos' bill of his hat and comes over, wants to look at it, wants him to get a new hat. So they end up doing that. And Mike Schilt takes issue with that and comes out and has a big to-do with Joe West, gets tossed and gives him some more lip. And at the end of that game, during the press conference, he decides to basically unload on the media and give them their thoughts. I've got a little clip here of that, and we can cue that up if you want to get the screens ready for me. I'll add that to our little show here for everybody. So Mike here is obviously, this is the press conference, and he goes on for quite a while. I'm just going to play a clip of it of his thoughts on the whole deal.
Hitters don't mind the grip. They don't want the stuff that's making the ball do wiffle ball stuff. And that's the issue at hand here. So you want to police some sunscreen and rosin? Go ahead. Get every single person in this league. Hit by pitches will just continue to go up. Balls will get away. But why don't you start with the guys that are cheating with some stuff that are really impacting the game and impacting how people play this game? And that's the integrity of the game I'll speak up for. Popular, I really don't care. It's accurate.
So just a little short clip. John Boy actually has a full video of the whole ordeal. It's like 11 minutes long or something if you really want to do a deep dive on it. But that was Schultz's big deal, is he believed that Gio had some sunscreen and some rosin on the top of his hat. I don't know. I didn't put it there. They also said that Gio wears the same hat all year, which a lot of people do, I would assume. So I don't really know. I don't really care what the substance was. Schultz's whole point with this was, if you're going to call somebody out on this, you might want to take a look at the bigger issue here, which is a lot of guys are using some crazy substances. And you and I have talked about this briefly before, and it's been tossed around throughout MLB, and no one's really, said much about it. No one's really gotten tossed for having stuff. MLB has also come out and said that they're examining balls and examining whatever else that they're going to examine for foreign substances. And I guess they're doing some sort of research about what this stuff might be, what they can do to prevent it. And my first thought is they're going to just basically give pitchers a free pass this year and collect all the data that they want and bring back every ball to see what guys are actually using. And they're going to collect all this data and potentially come up with some sort of rule. You can't use X amount of substance. You can't use this substance. We all know, of course, that there's a CBA coming up next year. And I would imagine that they're going to come to the CBA with these findings and say, we found that 70% of balls have rosin on them. We found that 30% of balls have whatever substance on them. This is our plan to implement a rule change. And if the players want to take it, then they're going to take it, and then they're going to have that fight. But that's what I think is going on this year, is that MLB is basically doing what they can to figure out what is actually being used and then take that information to use it as leverage in the CBA.
Yeah, that's a pretty good theory that you have there. I think that you might be onto something, because this year it does seem like there's going to be a lot of leeway given, and a lot of balls have been collected, but we've never heard any of the results. It seems like it is something that they're just building a case on. But this is something that has been going on for a long time in baseball. For example, I'm going to throw it up on the screen now. This picture here is of Rick Porcello from 2016. He famously wore this same hat for every game, ended up going on to win the Cy Young. If you look right here closely, you can see dark discoloration around his fingernails and a dark spot on the bill of his hat. Am I saying that he was using something for sure? I don't know, but this picture alone makes me think that he did have something on there. And the fact that that was a Cy Young award-winning year for Rick Porcello, maybe, because then after that he went on to not have as much success.
Right.
And then we've got guys that are in the know in the major league community talking about stuff like this.
Mm-hmm.
Dallas Braden of Starting Nine, and one of the voices of the Oakland Athletics, and a former pitcher in the major leagues that's actually got a perfect game under his belt. He says, brother, we know the difference between pine tar, rosin, sunscreen, and all the other stuff that's being used today. The common denominator with all of those things is how, if, when, to whom they enforce it. It's horribly inconsistent at best, and no precedent is the precedent. What's next? Josh Donaldson, third baseman for the Minnesota Twins, says, I agree. I have an entire catalog of video of these guys cheating. It's coming out. So Josh Donaldson's had it up to here, and he's ready to spill the beans. Josh Donaldson is on pace to be this generation's Jose Canseco.
Yeah. I'm anxiously awaiting that video, because I'm sure there's several high-level pitchers that are going to be on it. Most notably, we've all seen the videos. I think John Boy even has one of Garrett Cole, who touches his hat, and boy, do his fingers just stick to that hat. I don't know if it's just rosin. I don't know if it's pine tar, whatever. But he's one that we all kind of know. He has been seen to use something that makes his fingers sticky. Another big one is Trevor Bauer. And he's come out before and said that he's aired out a lot of dirty laundry of people that he's given people lists of ingredients that they use, the sunscreen and rosin thing. And he's also said that there's basically no way to make your ball not velocity. What's the word that they use? Spin rate.
The spin rate. Yep.
There's basically no way to get your spin rate up at a certain point. Lo and behold, this guy, his spin rate has gone up pretty significantly. I don't have the numbers in front of me. You can check them out if you're interested, but they're up for sure. And he says that he's gone to some sort of pitching school or whatever you want to call it, where they analyze the placement of the ball and your fingers and all kinds of stuff. And he says maybe that's where it comes from. I don't know. I have no idea if he's using some sort of substance, but it is funny for a guy who says you can't get your spin rate to go higher to then have that happen to him. And I think what it is he's playing MLB at their own game. If they're not going to come out and outright kick people out and ban people and do whatever for using these substances, then why not just jump on the party and use them yourself? And I think that's what's happening here. He's going to use whatever he's using until they say you can't do it and until they start tossing people.
Yeah, and it is worth mentioning that Bauer was one of the first guys that had his balls collected and notably and publicly announced that his stuff was being looked at. So
right.
It will be interesting to see, to your point, what MLB does with this data when we start hearing some of these results, like, oh, so-and-so was actually cheating. So it'll be crazy to see it all come out and actually get some definitive answers from MLB if we ever do.
Right. Yeah. And I wouldn't expect anything until next year or even maybe the year after, depending on how the CBA goes, because I think it's going to be a rough one. There is so many things that are at the forefront of people's issues with MLB and issues with the treatment of the players and contracts and just all kinds of stuff that it's probably going to take a while to hash out. And you and I have talked before, we may be seeing another strike. We may be seeing the players just simply not play until they get what they want. They kind of did that for that COVID season. They didn't want to play ball until they were going to get their full compensation. They ended up figuring that out and were able to play a 60-game season. We may see something like that where the game might be delayed for a while until they come to an agreement. So this is just one more thing that they're going to have to figure out in this CBA, and it's going to be a huge one for sure.
Yeah, it really is. This CBA is going to be make or break, because not only do we have all of this stuff going on with the pitching, and if they're using something more than the sunscreen and pine tar and rosin and all this stuff, if they're actually using a chemically altered sticky stuff, for lack of a better word. Plus, we've got the whole conversation about the National League adopting the DH. If they're going to continue implementing the runner on second base rule that they have and stuff like that. So it's definitely going to be something to keep an eye on as the offseason approaches.
Yeah, for sure. So moving on a little bit, some more bad news in the MLB world. Braves outfielder / DH Marcell Ozuna was arrested on domestic violence charges. I believe he's obviously going to go to court here soon or whatever. And this is another weird instance of a star player committing some crime, and we all hear about it. And the MLB and the Braves, as far as I know, at least as of now, haven't made any issue or haven't said anything about banning him or whatever they're going to do. And it's interesting because Pete Rose, obviously, is a player who, in a lot of people's minds, should be in the Hall of Fame, yet he's banned for life because he bet on his own team. How does a player beat his wife and not immediately get banned? I mean, maybe you wait for the court to do their due process, and if he gets convicted, then maybe ban him. But if I were at least the Braves, I would want him off of my team as of now. If you're even going to get charged with that kind of crime, you shouldn't be a part of my organization. And for this guy to I don't know what's going to happen, obviously, but if he doesn't get banned for life, how is betting on your own team worse than beating a woman?
It's not, and that's that's something that's clearly wrong in Major League Baseball and in their culture. The fact that they stick to their guns on Pete Rose's decision about the betting on his own team being banned for life and all that stuff, but he did accept that as his punishment. They said, "Hey, this is what we propose," and he said, "Yeah, that's cool, whatever." So that's a gray area, but it's not worse than beating his wife. And as of 6 hours, Yahoo Sports has an article claiming that Ozuna threatened to kill his wife, and that he's also accused of choking her and hitting her and doing some other significant things. I did also read that at some point last year, there was a call to the Ozuna household where she was threatening to injure him at some point. So it sounds like this relationship is just something that's clearly toxic, and they need to get away from as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Attorneys reportedly said in court that the couple was in the process of a divorce. I don't know if that was before or after this latest altercation, but it does seem like they are moving to dissolve this marriage, which I think would be in the best interest of both parties. But I agree with you. I don't think Ozuna should ever lace him up for another team. But we know from watching NFL, we know from watching Major League Baseball, these guys will be welcome back. Guys like this, as long as he isn't in jail, they'll find a need for him on some baseball team, and some team will accept him back. The New York Yankees have 2 guys on their roster right now that have been convicted of assault on their wives or girlfriends. It's just that's for some reason overlooked in the game.
Yeah. And I think you're right. I think that's multi-league level of just sheer, I don't know if it's just an acceptance of the crime or the whatever you want to call it, or if it's just maybe we need this player more than we need to have a clean look. I don't know. I don't know how you can balance those two. Obviously, Marcell Ozuna has talent, and he would be a good player to have on your team. But I think with these black marks, it's not worth it. He's going to carry this for the rest of his life. People might forget. I don't know. But if I were an owner, I wouldn't want to be paying a guy millions of dollars who has done something like this. I think there's plenty of young guys who can probably do at least what Marcell Ozuna can do, if not more, that haven't done this. So
you said people may forget, and yeah, that's another thing that's kind of sad. You look at some of the guys in the NFL and around NBA and Major League Baseball that have been accused of this or convicted of this or whatever. They're still playing, and they may have a few people out there that kind of have that smudge by their name, and they're like, oh yeah, that guy sucks. Michael Vick is still called a dog killer to this day. He admitted that he did wrong. He admitted that he was in the wrong area doing the wrong things. He served his time. He came back to the National Football League. He changed his life, completely did a 180 as far as the public is concerned. We haven't heard anything else about that. And he's still labeled as a dog killer. Why is it so easy for people to forget that these guys are beating women?
It's strange. I don't understand it. There's certain things that people don't forget, and there's certain things that they just let go. And sometimes these domestic issues are just something that they forget about. I don't know what it is. And I don't necessarily think that Marcell Ozuna is as big of a star to gain a sort of hatred towards him. I think if a team wants to pick him up, or if the Braves want to hold on to him, I don't know if he's as big enough of a star to gain some sort of issue from people on the internet or from fans or whatever. I don't know if this was Tatis or if this was Mike Trout or something, it'd be a huge deal. But I think because Marcell Ozuna is a little bit less of a star, we might just be flying under the radar. Or he might just be flying under the radar, and no one will ever really know, other than the people that are into baseball.
Yeah, that might be a good point.
Which is so sad.
Yeah, that might be a good point. It sucks. It really does. And, I feel sorry for everybody involved in this situation. I feel sorry for the Braves fans out there that continue to just get bad news poured on them. Not only is their team not performing that great on the field, I think right now the Braves are sitting at like 3.5 games out of first place behind the Mets in the NL East. But Ozuna before this got injured sliding into third base and was going to be on the IL for an extended period of time. They've had other guys, most notably their pitchers, who have had setbacks in trying to come back. Soraka isn't going to be able to come back for a significant amount of time after they thought initially that he was going to be able to come back in May or June. Now that's been pushed back. They've had other guys get injured. Max Fried hasn't been the guy that they thought that he would be. So it's been a bad news season for the Braves. And this is a team that was one win away from the World Series last year. So
Right.
it's been pretty crazy for them. Oh, Cody's giving us some love. What's up, Cody? Long time no talk.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
saw that he just dropped a heart emoji on us. That's what's up. We haven't seen him for a long time now.
Yeah. He used to be a big fan. Hope you're still tuning in every week. I know Cody's a big fan of the video game stuff, which there is quite the lack of on this show. But it is what it is. It can pick up at any moment. So anyway, back to our regularly scheduled programming. We've got some new power rankings. A lot has shifted since the last time we kind of gave our power rankings. A lot of people have moved up. A few teams have moved down. So we'll just go ahead and get right into that. And I'll let you take it away with your number one pick there.
We're going number one first.
Yeah.
Okay. I think anybody that has half a brain and has watched any bit of baseball in the past, 2 weeks has to say that the Tampa Bay Rays are the number one team in baseball right now. Over that span of time, I think they're something like 15-1. They've been absolutely killing it. They are 9-1 in their last 10, but before that they went on a 13 game winning streak before that one loss. They've been killing it. They're in first place in the American League East by 1.5 games over the Red Sox. They're up 5.5 games over the Yankees, who are in third place. They just beat the Yankees again today. The Yankees have been slumping quite a bit. They got swept by the Detroit Tigers, so that's telling you they're not playing the best baseball. But the Rays just did what the Rays do, and they just win baseball games. So that's my number one. Where do you see the top team on your power rankings, Zach?
I agree. I think the Rays are red hot right now, and it's kind of wild to see. This was not a team that I expected to be number one in the AL East. It's crazy. I don't know if this is sustainable for them. I mean, it very well could be, but they're on quite a streak here that I don't think very many people expected. Of course, obviously, they lost one of their big pitchers to San Diego, and I thought that would affect them pretty greatly. They kind of tend to lean on their big pitchers. Obviously, they lost Charlie Morton as well, so it seems like some other guys have stepped up, and of course, Tyler Glasnow's doing his thing. So this is a huge surprise for me, but absolutely the number one team right now is the Rays. They've just been absolutely destroying it.
Yeah, they've been phenomenal. Yarborough's been great. Archer coming back to Tampa Bay this year from the Pirates. He's been great. So they've been out there balling. They've had timely hits, and they are the number one team. Who do you have as your second place team in your power top five?
I've got the Padres. I would assume that most people kind of agree with that. They're doing very well right now. Last time I saw them, they beat up on my Cardinals, and I don't think they've really stopped. They did get beat by the Cubs today, but nonetheless, they're doing very good right now. Tatis is back, and he's back to full health and doing his thing. And I think everything's kind of clicking for that team. They've got good starting pitching. Obviously, they have all the talent in the world out in the field. Everything's kind of coming together for them, and they're in a very good spot right now, especially with the Dodgers being kind of hurt and they've lost a few starters. This is the Padres' chance to kind of capitalize on moving up that ladder in the NL West.
Yeah, I agree. I've got Padres as my number two as well. They are in a dead tie right now atop the NL West with the San Francisco Giants, who we'll talk about in a few minutes. But to your point, the Dodgers are 2 games back, and preseason, this was a division that we pretty much handed to the Dodgers. The question coming out of this division was, how much are they going to win by? Because we just looked and we're like, that's a stacked roster. This team is going to steamroll everybody. But here we are. Tomorrow's the beginning of June, and the Dodgers are in 3rd place. This is shaping up to be quite the interesting summer for the NL West because they're good. That's a good division. It's exciting baseball. It's fun to watch. Just like the American League East, they've got multiple contenders. Anybody could walk away with it at the end of the year, so it's pretty great to see. But to your point, the Padres, they're a house of fire, man. When they start swinging the bats and start with that swagginess that they like to have, it's unstoppable. I saw they were down in the 9th inning by 3 runs and still came back to win the game. Tatis came up with 2 outs in the 9th inning and hit a 3-run jack. And then Will Myers hit a jack in extras to win the game for the Padres.
Man.
So even when you think you've got them beat, they still find a way to come back and win. And that's the mark of a good team. A good team's going to win those close games and come from behind when they get down. So that's something to look out for there in the National League West.
Yeah, for sure. And it's crazy to see. Like you said, we kind of all just assumed that the Dodgers would run away with the division, and that's all but true at the moment. And I think there's still time for the Dodgers to come back, but I don't know. If the Padres can keep up this streak and just build that lead, it might be tough for the Dodgers to come back. It's a long season, which is what makes it so enjoyable to see the rise and fall of teams. So definitely keep your eyes on the Padres. I think they're going to be in that top 3 contention for the majority of the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Moving on to number 3. I think the White Sox are the right move. I didn't know really where to go with this one, but I think they are doing well. I kind of expected things to fall apart after that whole debacle with Tony La Russa saying that he didn't have a problem with how the Twins dealt with Mercedes' home run. I guess the players are just kind of taking it into their own hands and going for it. They are in a relatively easy division, so I think it's going to be easy for them to stay up in that number 1 contention in the AL Central. But boy, I kind of think that they have some rough outings coming up because I don't think they trust Tony La Russa, and I don't think they respect him like he thinks that they should. Maybe that team is playing 2 different games. Tony La Russa has his old school way of doing things, and these young guys have their way of doing things. And it's strange that the 2 kind of were merged. And I'm honestly shocked that they're doing as well as they're doing. I definitely expected some issues and some just blowing up in certain games, and they've been doing okay. So I guess they've earned a spot.
After last week's episode, when we had Lucas Smith from Locked On Cardinals come on here and talk with us, I was reading a little bit about Tony La Russa and his career and his history and stuff. And I learned one of the things about him is that he's never really been a popular guy in any of the clubhouses that he's managed. He's always kind of been that tough coach that like people enjoy playing for because they have success, but they hate because he's such a jerk and so hard to get along with. And he's even been quoted as saying that the clubhouse will rally in their hatred against me. That's what he wants. He wants the clubhouse to form a close-knit unit that just can't stand him, even though he's the one that's in charge. So maybe that's what he's doing. Master of Puppet Tony La Russa is over here playing his cards. Right. And we bought it hook, line, and sinker because we thought, oh, this is going to fall apart. But then you look, they're 7-3 in their last 10. They're 33-20 on the season, 4.5 games up in the American League Central. He's doing something right.
Yeah, and that's kind of interesting that you would want the guys to rally against you. Meanwhile, you're supposed to be their leader. You're supposed to be their main coach. I mean, he does have success behind him, so maybe he's on to something, and maybe he knows I can take these young guys with all this talent, and I can push them to that next level to get to the big game in the World Series. I don't know. I guess time will tell, but I kind of expected that this old fart would meet his match with these young guys, and the game has passed him by. But if he ends up having a successful season this year, will we all be, proven wrong? I don't know. I guess time will tell, but that is an interesting thing that he would actually want them to rally against him.
Yeah, the proof is in the winning percentage, and right now they're winning. So
yeah,
you got to take it at what it is, and just think this guy does know what he's doing
for sure. So for number 4, you said that you have the Giants over your Red Sox. Go ahead and elaborate on that one.
Well, like I mentioned earlier, the Giants are tied for first place in the NL West. They are 6-4 in their last 10. They're 33-20 on the season, and they're competing in a division where we didn't give them much of a chance. I think going into the season, we had them at either 3rd or 4th in the NL West. And here they are a third of the way through the season, and they're in first place. So I see them as performing above their expectations, above everyone's standards. I think they've had a lot of good pitching and a lot of timely hitting, and that's definitely helped them out. Maybe it does help that they've had a little bit of an easier division because the Rockies and the Diamondbacks, both of whom are pretty bad, and the Giants have gotten to play several times. So maybe that has something to do with why they're up top, and it won't be sustainable over the long season when they have to play some other teams here and there, and then eventually it drops. But for right now, I've got them as a little bit hotter than the Boston Red Sox.
Yeah, I can see that. And I definitely think they have that totally unexpected success behind them. I like you said, I did not expect them to be doing this well in the NL West. I thought this was the Padres and the Dodgers show, and everyone else was just going to have to basically lose to those two teams for the rest of the year. That is the case for the Rockies and the Diamondbacks, but the Giants have absolutely been proving everyone wrong. Buster Posey has been huge this year, and I did not expect that. I figured his age would start to show, especially at the catcher position. I mean, of course, you've got Yachty, and Buster's getting up there in age too. It's so crazy to me that those two guys are doing so well this year. That position is so hard on the body. Of course, the COVID season hit everybody real hard, and it was just so strange for everyone, and the starting and the stopping. But these two old guys have just really killed it this year, and it's crazy to see. The Giants specifically, it's wild because I just never gave them a chance. They were just a mediocre team that I thought would kind of do mediocre. Especially they lost obviously Mad Bum, who hasn't been great. He did have that 7 inning unofficial no hitter, but it's not like they lost some number one starter in Mad Bum. But hats off to them. They've been doing very well for sure. And then of course that leaves your Red Sox at number 5. They've kind of slipped. They weren't the hottest team in baseball for these past couple of weeks as they have been, but still solid. What has been some of the issues going on for the Red Sox to make them fall?
Well, first off, they've been pretty good. They've been 7-3 in their last 10. Well, I guess now 6-4 because they lost today to the Astros, and my standings here aren't updated. But coming into today, they were 7-3 in their last 10. The only problem is they play in the same division as the Rays, who are 9-1 in their last 10. So they have to win every game just to keep pace, and that's tough to do. So they have slipped a little bit. They're now, I believe, with today's loss factored in, they'll be 2 games back from the Rays in first place. So, I mean, it's not an insurmountable lead by any stretch of the imagination. They can come back and do it. The problem, from what I've seen, has been some of the starting pitchers have not been able to go out there and give the big innings. Guys like Eduardo Rodriguez, a guy who we tended to lean on in years past. He had the whole COVID season last year where he missed the entire year, and things were a little bit shaky with him even getting back this season. He's not looked very good at all. I'll look it up real quick. I think he's got a +4 ERA.
Oh,
It
boy.
might even be higher than that. So he's not been doing great. And Nathan Eovaldi hasn't been pitching that well either. So these are guys that have pretty much been depended on as cornerstones of that pitching rotation, and they're only going a couple innings every game, and that's not good yet. Erod has a 5.06 after today.
Oh, man.
So not looking too good. And in the month of May, it was even worse. He was probably over 7 in just the month of May alone. So not a very good look out of a guy who was touted as a potential ace coming into the season. He was supposed to take the ball on opening day, but an injury setback kind of delayed that. So Eovaldi got the opening day start, but Erod's not been it. The bullpen has been shaky at times. Some guys just not able to lock down those crucial outs late in games, giving up big hits. Cora's been bringing in guys with traffic on the bases, and they've not been able to get out of the inning and stuff like that. Just little things here and there. And then the offense, which has been great for the majority of the season, some days they just don't show up.
Yeah.
Like today, for example, they only scored 2 runs against the Astros. You're going to have to score a little bit more, especially when Erod's given up 5 runs in the game.
Yeah.
It's what it is.
Yeah. And plus, like you said at the beginning of that, the Rays are on absolute fire, which makes it so much harder to keep up. And that's why I think maybe the Rays are going to start to kind of cool off. This is just a crazy streak that they're on. So maybe that'll give the Red Sox the chance to kind of move back up, because if they can stay consistent, then I think that's good. You're going to lose a few games. You're going to go on a bit of a skid for a little while. Mm-hmm. And hopefully you can just bounce back. And I think this might be a little bit of a skid for the Red Sox, but I think they'll be okay. Barring any kind of crazy injury, of course, which injuries is another thing that's rearing its ugly head already. A lot of teams have a bunch of injuries. We just got back Tyler O'Neill, who was out for I think it was a hand or I don't know, something. So yeah, there's a bunch of teams out there. I know the Mets have had I saw something that said 12 people on the injured list.
Wow. Lots
of teams out there with several injuries.
Mets are still a first place team though.
Yeah. In a terrible division. But yeah, I think injuries are starting to come a little earlier than they normally do because of that shortened season last year. I don't know how many people were affected by COVID last year, but even if they are athletes, the virus can have long lasting effects or whatever. So you might be seeing a little bit of that. It might be more so that they just weren't used to the load that they have this season. I mean, we're going full strength here. Obviously, we haven't really had a bump in the road other than maybe some rainouts or whatever, but that's normal. And to go from a 60-game season to a full-on regular season, I think you're going to see, and you already have seen, guys struggle with that. And you're going to see your bullpens struggle with that. I know the Cardinals have struggled with that. We've basically got 3 guys who we can depend on in our bullpen, and when they tire out, the wheels fall off. So that's probably going to plague a lot of teams throughout the year, is just how are you going to manage the workload of your starters, and when your starters aren't available, when your big relievers aren't available, how are you going to come back from that? And we'll just see. We're going to have to see what teams do and what happens. And I think you're going to see some big teams take some hits, take some losses, but I think that's just going to come with the territory with this season. I hope for the best for all the teams, and obviously you never want to see anyone injured, especially the big stars, but I think it's going to be a huge issue this year.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, like you alluded to, you are going to have those stretches in your season where it's a rough patch and where it's going to be a little bit more difficult. Hopefully the Rays hit that pretty soon, because if they keep winning, they're going to put a lot of distance between themselves and the rest of the pack, and it'll be hard to catch up. The Red Sox are kind of in that stretch right now where you're playing nothing but good teams coming up. You got the Astros in Houston for 4 games. Then you got the Yankees in New York. Then you come back to Boston to play the Astros again, and then you have the Blue Jays coming to town, and then you go and play Atlanta in Atlanta. So it's some good teams coming up that can score a lot of runs, and this pitching staff hasn't been clicking at its elite level.
Sure.
So it's an opportunity for them to drop a lot of games in a short amount of time. And if that's the case, we could see them plummet not only in our power rankings, but in the standings as well.
Right, for sure. I also wanted to shed some light and give a little spotlight to two of the best divisions in MLB, and that's the AL East and the NL West. And obviously, just by those numbers, you heard us talk about the teams that are in those divisions that are on the top tier of the power rankings.
Yeah.
The NL East has 4 teams that are basically in contention, with all at least 30 wins or above, I believe. And obviously you've got the lowly Orioles in the bottom of that pile.
The Blue Jays have 27 and the Yankees have 29.
Oh, okay.
The Red Sox are at 32 wins and the Rays are at 35 right now.
Gotcha. So that's 4 teams that are doing well. And of course, on the NL West side of things, you've got 3 teams that are doing well. Obviously, Padres, Dodgers, and Giants.
Yeah.
And they're 2 bottom teams that aren't going to do a whole lot. And I think these 2 divisions are the best in baseball. There's some others that are good. I think the NL Central is kind of crazy to see, but their 3 teams are pretty good in that. But I think the crown either goes to AL East or NL West. And I'm kind of leaning towards AL East simply because they have the 4 teams as opposed to the 3. And could we be seeing some teams out of these 2 divisions go to the World Series? Are one of these teams in these divisions going to represent the entire American League or National League?
Well, you know what's great, Zach, is that the National League and the American League play each other in the World Series. So there's a chance that we could see a team from the NL West and a team from the AL East represented. That's what we saw last year in the Dodgers and the Rays.
Right.
And it looks like we're on pace to see something like that once again this year. I agree with you that those are the 2 best divisions in baseball right now, followed up by the NL Central because the Cubs, Cardinals, and Brewers, they're all powerhouses in their own right. And if they get hot at the right time, they can upset some teams. You know, we said it preseason about the Padres and Dodgers rivalry. We thought that the Dodgers were going to run away with the regular season, but in a 5 or 7 game series, it's anybody's ball game. Same can be said with any of those National League Central teams. Put the Cubs against the Giants in a 7 game series, and anybody could walk out the winner of that thing. So I don't want to put too many eggs in that basket here on May 31st, trying to predict who's going to be represented in the World Series. But I think it definitely could be somebody from the NL West and the AL East represented. And I would like to hope that it's the Red Sox. I hope that they can make some moves coming down the stretch.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. But yeah, obviously things can change. It's a long season, but it is interesting that like you said, last year it was the NL West and the AL East that were represented in the World Series. And here we are talking about those same divisions again as being some of the best. I don't know if it's going to be the Dodgers this year. Obviously, they're on a bit of a rough patch, and the Pirates and Giants are doing very well. But wouldn't it be funny if another NL West team yet again wins the National League Championship Series and goes right back to the World Series?
It would almost be more shocking to me for any of those NL West teams to win the division than just to go on and be represented in the World Series, because the Dodgers have had such a stranglehold on the NL West for the past decade that if the Giants or Padres somehow ended up winning the NL West, like that would be a huge shocker to me.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, the Dodgers have had a hold on that division for at least 5, 6, 7 years now. Basically, whenever the Giants stopped winning every other World Series, the Dodgers kind of took over and started winning that division year after year.
Yeah, let's see. I'm looking it up right now. It is awesome to win a division, obviously, but to just make the playoffs as a wild card team, you can have success as a wild card team. You get hot at the right time, go on and win the World Series. The Florida Marlins did it in 97, and in 2003, the Marlins were also a wild card team then. They've never even won the NL East, but they've won the World Series twice.
Right.
That the
Crazy.
Angels in 2002, the Red Sox in 04, Cardinals in 11, Giants in 14, and the Nationals in 19 were all wild card teams. So it's very, very doable for a wild card team to just make the playoffs barely, get hot, and win the whole thing.
Yep.
So, while talking about potentially winning the division is great, it's all about timing in baseball.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what makes October just so damn exciting.
Absolutely.
Sure, you're going to have those number one powerhouse teams, but then teams like the Nationals come out of nowhere, beat a Brewers team who potentially might have beat them if everybody's little brother isn't over there in left field and makes a catch. And then they go on to just win the entire thing. Literally no one saw that coming.
Yeah, I'm 100% convinced that if Yelich was not out of that game, he makes that play in left field and the game's over, or right field, I believe.
Yeah, wherever he plays. But I totally agree. It's just crazy how that can happen. Certain things line up perfectly for teams to just go crazy. Do you have anything else that you want to cover on baseball, Red Sox, or anything like that before we clear some benches?
No, I think Brad covered it pretty much right there with how they performed today. So that's all I really had to comment.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Well, I have one for you, and then if you have any, you can throw them in there. The NBA has seen a strange uptick in fan unrest, for a lack of a better word.
Yeah.
A few weeks ago, maybe a week ago or so, I think it was like popcorn or something like that was thrown
on Westbrook, right?
Yeah. LeBron came out and said the name of that person should be released, and they want charges and whatever. I don't think anything really came of that one. But recently, this weekend, a fan at a Boston Celtics game threw a bottle at Kyrie Irving, who apparently was like stomping on the center logo or something. And we all know how Boston fans are. So this fan decided to take it in his own hands and chuck a bottle at Kyrie Irving as he was walking into the locker room.
Well, in all fairness, he did stomp on the logo in the middle of the court, which was seen as a disrespectful act. So he kind of got a little bit of what he deserved. But when Kyrie played in Boston, he talked bad about the team, about the fans and all this stuff. Mm-hmm. And whenever he left, he was like, I'm leaving to go to a winner. Well, the reason that the Celtics didn't really play well when he was there was because of him.
Right.
He was the cancer of that team when he was there. So anyway.
Yeah, I totally agree. So the bottle thrower, Cole Buckley, wonder if he has any relation to Keith.
Absolutely not.
Has been arrested and charged with assault and battery by means of a dangerous weapon. And he'll be arraigned Tuesday in a Boston court.
Yeah, well.
I don't know if that's a little too much or just enough or what.
I don't know. Yeah, in Philadelphia, they've been throwing bottles and cups and stuff like that for years. I think maybe Boston gets a little bit of a bad image because of the fact that it's on the playoffs and there's this huge microscope on it, especially after the popcorn incident with Westbrook. And there was also an incident that happened in the Madison Square Garden where a fan spit on a player. So that guy ended up getting banned from MSG for life and all that stuff. Right. But it does seem like these fans are starting to get a little bit rambunctious.
It's weird, isn't it? And especially at NBA games, you're so close to the players there that this kind of thing can really kind of take off. Like if you throw something at a football player, they've got pads on, they've got helmets on. It doesn't really matter. These NBA players are obviously in shorts and tank tops.
Sure. I mean, do you think it has anything to do with the fact that fans haven't been allowed at sporting events for so long, and they've just been griping and arguing and fighting on Twitter for the past year, that now that they're back in person, they feel like they've got to express their anger, and they've allowed themselves to get so riled up that now they've taken to throwing things, to fighting in the stands. How many videos have you seen of fans fighting in the stands of baseball games, basketball games, etc.
Yeah.
It seems like every time you open up Twitter or every time you turn on ESPN, you're seeing another video of some guy getting knocked out in the stands watching a baseball game. I mean, we even showed on our broadcast the Padres fan knocking out the Rockies guy.
Yeah.
You know, these things are happening all over the place, not just the NBA, and it's crazy. I think a little bit of the cabin fever mentality from the whole COVID, all this stuff, I think that's led to these people just being super aggressive coming out.
Yeah. And I completely agree. I absolutely think that people have had it up to here with the lockdowns and the regulations and all that stuff. And we're obviously getting some of those things back, and a lot of places are opening up to full capacity. This is, for some people, the first time that they've gone to a sporting event in a year plus. And those can be, depending on the fan base and depending on the city, those can be rowdy in and of itself. But I think when you compound the fact that people have been basically stuck at home for a year, this is a side effect of that. People are just going nuts because they can go nuts, and it may continue throughout the season. I'm sure they're going to start banning people and kicking people out and all that kind of stuff. So I pose the question specifically for these NBA players, because they do tend to be a little bit more sensitive than the rest of the sporting world. Of course, you've got LeBron flopping all over the place. Do these NBA players have a legitimate gripe when it comes to this kind of stuff? Now, mind you, the spitting is a whole different thing. That's a bodily fluid, and if you have some sort of disease, you can you know, that's a whole different thing. But I think the bottle thing and the other stuff, do they have a legitimate gripe here, or are they just being sensitive?
The bottle thing, yes, because that can cause injury. The popcorn thing, you're not going to get injured because a kernel hits you on top of the head. It is what it is. The spitting thing, yeah, that's gross. Like you said, if he does happen to have any kind of disease or whatever, that could be easily transmitted that way. The video of that one is pretty funny because you can see the spit fly from the dude's mouth, hit the player in the back of the arm, and there's a chick sitting in the front row, and she's just like, ugh. Like, her face is hilarious because she sees it all happen, and like she reacts to it.
That's fine.
I believe it was Derrick Rose was watching live on the big screen at Madison Square Garden when it all happened, and he had a pretty knee-jerk reaction to it as well. But I think the only one that really needs to be punished is the bottle. Throwing a bottle at somebody can cause injury. If you hit them in the head, you know, it could bust them open. You know, we've seen from MMA fights, it doesn't take much to get a cut along your eyebrow, something like that. A bottle hits you there, it's going to open you up. You're going to need stitches. Now we're talking about potentially missing games because of it. And if this happened to be one of your superstar players, then that could cost you the entire season. Like, I mean, you know, obviously if LeBron got hit, he would be out for the next 12 years. But I'm talking about somebody like Luka Doncic, who is a star in the league that you don't really hear about. But if he ended up missing a game, his team would definitely miss him. Same thing with guys like Devin Booker. It's pretty bad.
Yeah, Trae Young is another one.
Trae Young, yeah, for sure.
The Hawks are going on quite a little run to get into. Obviously, they're in the playoffs and just to move on. So if something were to happen to one of those guys, I'm sure those teams would be severely affected. I think I agree with you. I think this does need to be handled, if only to set a precedent to other fans. Hey, we're not going to tolerate this. This isn't just a free for all. There are rules, and you have to abide by those. The players may or may not be sensitive. I don't know if the bottle is a huge issue, but I think you have to set that precedent. I think you have to especially because there's so much eyes on this kind of stuff. This stuff goes viral like that. It's all over Twitter. It's all over Sports Center and stuff like that. Because it's so viral and because there's so many eyes on it, you have to set the precedent of, as a fan, this is not tolerable. You can't just come into our arena and act however you want to act. So it doesn't really matter if they're sensitive or not. Something has to be done to prevent crazier stuff from happening. And maybe people will think twice if they're planning on doing something stupid like this if you get banned for life from your favorite team's arena or whatever.
Yeah, I wonder how they actually go about enforcing something like that, though.
I would assume they put like your picture or something on a board somewhere or something. I don't really know either. It's kind of weird, because what if you just put on one of those glasses, nose and mustache things and just come through?
Well, I mean, if you have a beard and you shave a beard, you look like a completely different person.
Yeah.
If you change your hairstyle, you can look like a completely different person.
Yeah.
So I think just a picture on the wall isn't really doing much. I mean, maybe you can somehow block that name from buying tickets or whatever, but using StubHub or SeatGeek or any of those other services, you can buy a ticket to a game. So I think that's just a lot of lip service, to be honest.
It very well could be. I don't really understand how you would effectively ban someone from something like that when you've got 40,000 people going in and out of there that basically show you a ticket, get their stuff checked, and moved on. No one's checking your actual name. So.
You don't show an ID to get into a professional sporting event. You get your ticket scanned and you go in. So maybe you can't purchase from the box office. Yeah. Maybe when you're there, you have to use cash instead of using your credit card.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe you just have to buy from the scalpers that are outside of the stadium.
So for what it's worth, I don't think that that's really going to be an effective deal. I always thought about that. One of my first jobs was I worked at Hot Topic in the mall. And when people would get caught stealing, we would turn them over to the mall security or whatever, and they would get a permanent ban from the mall. But then you would see them walking around the mall like 2 weeks later and nobody did anything about it. And it's like, how do they even enforce this? Oh, they don't. Okay, got it.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think with something like that, when it's just so public and there's so many people there, you're not going to be able to do it. But
they have to say something.
Yeah, at least I think that might sway some people from, oh, you know what? I might not want to throw a bottle at LeBron James or something. Who knows?
And another thing about the NBA, I really think they need to hammer down these flops.
Oh, it's so ridiculous.
Like, I've seen multiple videos of LeBron where he doesn't even get touched, but he falls to the ground holding his head. He stumbles off to the side of the court like he had been, cold clocked by Mike Tyson. And it's like, dude, you didn't even get touched in the head. Like, what? He deserves an Oscar for every season of NBA basketball that he plays, because he is the greatest actor on the court. I just hope that that translates to Space Jam 2 and it's actually a halfway decent movie.
Right. You think he's going to flop in Space Jam 2?
I hope so.
I mean, if he doesn't, it won't be true to life.
Did Space Jam 2 flop? I think it's already out, right?
Oh, if it is, I don't know. I don't know where to find it. I thought they were just filming it, but I could be wrong.
See, Space Jam 2 release date, July 16th, 2021. So it's about to come out about a month and a half or so. So, I mean, what's the over-under on it being a flop in the box office?
I don't think it's going to be that great. I mean, I think it's just going to be a crappy rendition of LeBron James is now the player, and some other animated characters are going to have to help him win or something. I mean, it's going to be some sort of crappy ripoff from the original. I don't see what else they're going to do.
Now, I mean, with LeBron in it, the over-under on it flopping has to be huge. So,
right.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I'm looking at some of the press release. It looks like he's playing against the Monstars again.
Man.
Wow.
That's funny.
Interesting.
Well, I'm sure we'll have to give a Nest review of that one.
Yeah. Maybe we can get some other people on here that will watch the movie and we can discuss it. That'd be fun.
For sure. Well, Bud, do you got anything else you want to share?
No, I'm good. Okay.
Cool. Yeah. Well, it's been another good one. I hope everyone had enjoyable Memorial Day. And obviously we'll catch you back next week. We'll have plenty of sports news and whatever else might come down the pike. So we'll see everybody then. Peace.